So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this highly interesting panel of transforming and building high-density data centers. And welcome to those that are joining us via the internet on LinkedIn or on the W.Media website. So I'd like to start off by introducing myself. My name is James Ricks. I'm the head of data centers and industrial for Jones Lang LaSalle for both Malaysia and Indonesia. I've been involved in the data center industry since 2007 and have had the pleasure of delivering data center facilities here in Jakarta. So on to our next panelist, please, Josh.
Hi, I'm Joshua Hunt. I'm the Director of Engineering Design for Exyte. A little bit less than James. I've been doing data centers for sort of 10, 12 years across North America, Europe, and now Asia.
Hi, I'm Andreuw. I'm running the NeutralDC group. We have a presence in Indonesia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and part of Southeast Asia. Basically 18 years in the cellular industry and then 10 years in data center industry. Thanks.
Hello everyone, lovely to be here. So I'm Donna Bridgman, or Lorenzen, whatever you want to call me, I've got a couple of names. And so I'm here with a couple of hats on. I'm the Infrastructure Masons Women's Group Regional Chair for Asia Pacific and sit on their global board. And I've been in the data centre, I'd say game, that's a bit uncouth. I've been in the data centre sector for about close to 30 years. So thanks for the opportunity, W.Media. I'd love to see more women on panels going forward next time, and I've met a wonderful bunch of female experts out there today, so I want you on the panel next year. All right.
All right, thanks, Donna. Thanks, Rick. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ricardo Purba, so I'm the Chief Operating Officer of OCS Indonesia, part of the OCS world, and it's been a pleasure to be here, Rick. Thank you.
Great, so thanks, and some very good thoughts there, Donna, about gender representation on panels. It's something that I've been talking about for a long time, but eventually we will get there, and next year, conference organisers, please take note. So that's about transforming data center panels. Now let's talk about transforming the data center facility itself. We've talked about high density, and there have been various presentations today that have mentioned high density, but what are we actually referring to? When Donna and myself started in the industry 300 years ago, it was probably 2 kilowatts a rack. We were quite ambitious at that. Then it moved to 5, 6, 7. Uptime Institute says it's round about an average of 8 kilowatts a rack at the moment. But where are you seeing high density moving to? Perhaps in the operational field, where have you seen that sitting currently? Perhaps Rick?
Okay. All right. So the way I see the high density is moving as high as 40 kilowatt per rack and above. And mainly this is for AI application. And the way I see the challenges will be around the cooling design, because we need to accommodate the air cool rack within the same data hall. And as we know that the air cool has a limitation, because which they tend to struggle anything within above more than 30 kilowatt. And the other thing, if you talk about the higher density, I suppose we need to touch a bit pertaining to the people readiness, because most of the people working in data center area, it has to be trained pertaining to a high density environment. And from the knowledge perspective, they need to understand related with the advanced cooling as well as the power system. So that's from my opinion, Rick. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Andreuw, do you have...
If we look at how the data centers is evolving now, especially from the capacity point of view and then the density of the racks. At the end of the day, definitely there's one elephant in the room that we shouldn't talk about the brand, but there is the one who's driving. How is the high dense rack is coming now? So from you were saying it's 3, we're looking at 8, and then now probably 10, but probably in the next 1 or 2 years, we are looking at 40 to 100 kilowatts per rack. So you are definitely right about looking at the cooling, but if we look at now we are looking at our old facilities, is power, cooling, the flow loading. The flow loading is the one that is now probably the thing that we need to have a look. Otherwise, the rack density in terms of the kilogram itself is jumped from 1 tons to 1.5 now. So that's something that we need to address as well. So it's not only like, yes, we have to expand the power, we have to expand the cooling, but the rack density for the floor loading is very important.
Agreed. That's something that I think a lot of people sometimes forget about floor loading. Perhaps, Josh, what challenges does that bring during construction?
No, it's a great point. As a design builder, we're seeing requests from customers just going northwards, 30, 50, 70 kilowatt racks. From a construction point of view, yeah, it's causing some some issues. We're having to look at how we're deploying our frames more efficiently. It's not just about throwing concrete at the problem, it's being intelligent with how we design our frames. It's about how we future-proof some of that for our customers so that we're not just addressing today's capacity, but allowing them scalability for the future and looking at how we can deploy kind of our technical thoughts around that by looking at modularization, by looking at how we can support them on that journey. But it's a lot of fun seeing the racks go up. It's becoming a lot more technical, and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
That's good, but all of that brings other engineering challenges, to be able to put in these larger racks. Donna, what are some of the challenges, the engineering challenges that we need to look at and grasp hold of?
Okay, thank you. Look, firstly, I'll just start by saying, high-density data centres means so many different things to different organisations and the end-user customer, and I think we're very much in that discovery stage and phase at the moment. Technology is changing so rapidly. What we have to do is obviously just be totally agile, and we've seen some amazing, the last presentation from Snyder, fabulous. We know we've got so many different technology solutions out there in the hall which are going to help us work with our customers going forward. So it depends what hat you're wearing. Look, at the end of the day, higher density racks, it's really, we're doing the same thing we were doing decades ago. We're just putting a different number in front, and we're thinking about how we work with that technology to deploy it. And so ultimately, the key things are, as we all know and continue to talk about, power and cooling. But we have to not lose perspective, organisations wanting to decarbonise, by 2030 or 2050, we know that the digital demands are far in excess of that, and we aren't going to achieve it, right? Let's be honest, globally. So if you look at the Infrastructure Masons State of the Nation report that was presented a couple of weeks ago, some of the suggestions now are large-scale campuses in particular parts of the world where customers are now going to be taking their facilities to these campuses and co-locating around, the key things that we all need, we know, large-scale power, whatever that is, and we know that we've got, opportunities there, water clearly, connectivity, etc. And so we just need to be thinking differently, James. But again, from an engineering perspective, it's if we're looking at a retrofit, the commercial realities around that are we really going to throw good money after bad by looking at retrofitting some existing facilities? I'd suggest not. Modularisation is the way to go. We need to be thinking about resiliency and redundancy, irrespective of the changes in technology. Because we're doing this all for end-user customers, so we shouldn't lose sight of that. And so clearly we need to be really engaging with our customers, and I'll shut up now. Thank you, James.
I'd never ask you to do that, Donna. I think, some interesting points, especially when we think about legacy facilities. The point was made earlier about the increasing in power has an exponential growth rate with weight of the equipment. So when we were installing data centres a few years ago, we were looking at 7.5 kilonewtons per square metre, then 12 kilonewtons per square metre. Now we are bringing in racks that maybe have 20 kilonewtons per square metre. Some providers are bringing in racks fully racked and stacked. That means that the lift or elevator needs to be able to take that weight. Also the corridor from the lift to the data center floor has to be able to withstand the rolling weight of 20 kilonewtons per square meter, let alone the point load on the floor with several of these racks, next to each other. Do you think it is feasible then to upgrade legacy facilities to be able to take up this higher density?
Okay. The way I see it is not easy. I mean, if you're talking about the existing site legacy, it's not easy if we convert it or transform to high density, because there's a lot of things need to be changes, and totally depend on the equipment and the technologies used. Right? It can definitely be made suitable for the high density, but there's a lot of things that need to be changed. So we probably start from the PDU busway and up to the cooling design. And probably some site need to address the structural design as well. And please bear in mind, this is in live running data center. Rex, thanks.
Thank you. Andreuw?
I can share some of our experiences looking at how we try to utilize all the old assets. So definitely when you talk about the floor loading, are you going to go horizontal or are you going to go verticals? That will come into your business plan. And some share that I can also give that when you're talking about floor loading, people always talk about whatever on the surface, on top of it. Some people forgot what's your hanging below the floor loadings. It's sometimes we're creating a bit of a hassle, because after that, then, it's not enough. Then you need to do strengthening of your floors. So some practical example like that, and then come back to either horizontal or verticals. That's also important, because if let's say in some countries that you have lands, then you can do it. But in country that you are really have a tiny land that you need to go up, then that will be very challenging, and probably you can share more about that construction for that one.
There's a segue there for you, Josh.
It's seamless. I think it's a fair point. Land is expensive and it's difficult, it's constrained, and we are seeing verticality in these structures. I mean, I think Hong Kong recently did a 12-story DC, and it's going up. I think it's interesting that we talk about the retrofitting, and I think Donna made a fair point. I also think we look at, again, densification. What does it mean? How much are we pushing that? Because for sure, if we're having to bring in new cooling technologies, yes, there's a lot of moving parts, especially when it's a live DC, trying to swap it over. The commissioning is fun. But thinking about using the stock that we have now is kind of, can we get a hybrid solution, which perhaps isn't pushing the realms of possibility, but it's giving more flexibility to our end users. And I wonder if there is a halfway house between now and then.
Thanks. So, look, I totally agree there is a halfway house, and in my experience, we are seeing, we're not going to switch overnight to how we did things, 2 years ago to deploying data centres which are purely high density. We're just not going to do that, and financiers, developer operators aren't going to do that. At the end of the day, there needs to be a return on investment. There isn't clarity at the moment from a customer perspective in terms of what they're telling the developers. So let's not get too carried away, because it's going to burn us in the backside in terms of cost, and that's the reality. So the hybrid solution is where we're going. I think we're 3 to 5 years away from seeing a significant, full transition. And so the things we really need to think about as part of that are, at the moment, not gold plating the designs. We typically build our building structures for 50 years. Our plant has a very different design life. Our IT equipment has a very different design life. So we should be looking at, scalable modular solutions which can be plugged and played, pulled out, creates that hybrid opportunity. We can redeploy elsewhere in the world. We can recycle as well, which is really important with the circular economy. We also should be thinking about, what's the impact of, regulation and compliance and sustainability in the geographies that we operate, and not lose sight of that with the transformational change to high density loads, because we need to keep all of these things in mind. So just don't take the foot off the pedal in terms of the more holistic aspects of deploying these projects in region.
You made some very good points there, Donna, particularly around the circular economy, and we need to understand exactly how we are recycling what there is. Do you want to be like Morgan Stanley, that a few years ago were fined a total of $95 million for incorrectly recycling their equipment? Their reseller was actually selling them on the equivalent of eBay, and yet customer data was still installed on the pieces of equipment. So you need to audit the whole process to make sure that what you're doing is correct. But we've talked a lot, not only on this panel, but previous panels and discussions about AI. Does that mean that cloud is dead? Long live AI. Or is cloud still continuing?
Well, the way I see it is far from the dead, because it has been major, and it has become a norm for all application and enterprises. And the way I see it, it will continue evolving. So it's not less important because it has major breaks. So that's the way I see the future of cloud.
So cloud will continue, and cloud will continue to grow. Andreuw?
If you ask me for now, yes, definitely, because there's, from my perspective, it's totally separation of cloud and AI. NVIDIA is calling the AI as NVIDIA cloud, basically, cloud providers. What's in it is AI. And it's just a matter of, if you look at how people are utilizing AI now, especially with the chips that they have, I would separate this into two. First, all the hyperscalers and the retailers. Retailers will go for the most popular one now, which is NVIDIA for sure. But if you ask people like Google, Amazon and all that, they probably will have their own. So why they are doing that is because they want to suit the AI for their clouds. So based on that, I believe there will be like hand in hand, even though it's totally separated, but it's going to grow together. And at the end of the day, it's still the cloud.
Look, I'd just like, thanks, to add to that, is that, look, we live in a really complex and rich digital world. Not every organisation, not every entity, not every small-scale customer is interested in AI, right? So let's think about the man down the street. Let's think about the percentage of the global population still not connected with digital infrastructure. They're not going to go straight to AI-deployed solutions necessarily. We're going to live in this mixed world for a very long time. So my answer to that is we are going to be deploying both types of solutions.
And sometimes that could be within the same facility.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing to note. So just as we're coming to the last 2 or 3 minutes of our panel discussion, if each of you had to just put one sentence or a couple of sentences together about what we need to do to transform or build a high-density data center, what would you say? That our audience today here in the Shangri-La Ballroom or those online, what do they need to do to transform and build?
Yeah, for me, and I think Donna mentioned it, it's standardization, it is modularization, it is simplify the infrastructure, make it plug and play so we can pull things out, upgrade them when required, and pop them back in. I think it has to be on that kind of way.
Thank you. Andreuw?
I'm totally agree. So the modularizations of the data center itself, we've been talking about it quite some times. But if you look at the data centers, it's not rocket science. It's just a simple civil, mechanical, electrical, security. But next one, when all the hyper racks coming in, when all the density, you will need plumbers, because all the liquid cooling start coming in, which is, as operators, to be honest, I hate liquid cooling, because there's two things that we always avoid in data centers, just fire and water. So now you will have a lot of water running around the data center. So this is something that you need to really be mindful that it's not only about the building, but how you operate, what kind of resources that you will have to cater this demand in the future.
totally. And, the way we operate these data centres, much more higher power demands. It means that operators need to be trained differently. We've got much higher things like, arc flash to think about, much larger switchgear. All of those have major safety implications and costs from an operational perspective. My advice is to be curious, make sure that you are, we embrace the technology solutions and we assess them, on a fit for basis, fit for approach basis. And so in my experience over the decades is just keep learn from other geographies. Not everything's going to go well. This is a fantastic industry where we can collaborate and, learn off each other and find the best solution for you going forward. There's so much to learn out there. We talked about skills a lot. Just get people into the industry. We've got to embrace AI as it develops, work with it. And at the end of the day, think about, which hat are we wearing in our particular roles. Ultimately, we are, we've got all of these competing agendas, decarbonisation, the sustainability agenda. We need to keep those things in mind, overlaid with regulation, which is coming in, and we will need to reporting around sustainability metrics. But it's a damn exciting time, and it continues to be. So,
yeah.
Thank you. And Rick, finally.
Yeah, I completely agree with Andreuw. Despite we're talking about the technology, we're talking about the infrastructure or equipment. So probably we need to touch pertaining to the readiness about the people, because they are the one who executed the high density or transform the high density. And the other parts, probably we need to think about the infrastructure resilience to ensure that we can operate in this kind of environment. Rick, thank you.
Great, so thank you very much. And my final thoughts on that is, we've probably danced around one of the elephants in the room today, and that's training and upskilling of people. Representing the Nomad Futurist Foundation, we're all about bringing in young people into the industry, those that are career transitioning, and we provide a range of training without cost to those people to help them to upskill. So please go away and check out the Nomad Futurist Foundation, or come and talk to me at one of the other sessions or at the lunch break. More than happy to discuss.
I just on that, James, say it's not just about transitioning the younger generation. As we all move through our career, there are opportunities to retrain, and if we've got a skills shortage, which we have, we need to enable others to get through. So hopefully that's open up to other demographics and ages, but to just encourage that.
That's right, and that's career transitioning at a later stage. I've not always been in data centres. I started off life as a carpenter and joiner, so this is more of a diverse route into the industry, but a topic for a discussion when we have a refreshing beverage later. So I'd like to thank our panel for joining me in this discussion today. So thank you, Rick, Donna, Andreuw, and Josh for joining with us. Perhaps you can show your appreciation for their words.